Hey guys, we're back. Muhfuza.
Wahida.
And we're here with Moshe Reuven.
Welcome to Unofficial Therapy.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we want to introduce you guys and let you guys know a little bit about him. He's currently an artist featured on Billboard. You're like in several different countries. You're charted in several different countries, including South Africa,
where his song was #1.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Last
cool.
year, yeah.
And that's why you were on GQ. Was that kind of the conversation?
Yeah. So the GQ interview was about me charting #1 in South Africa. Yeah.
So now you're Orthodox Hasidic Jew, and you're also a rapper.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
It's really an interesting story. Long story short is I didn't grow up religious. I was always Jewish, but I didn't really get super into my religion till I was in my teens. So I'd already formulated certain interests. I was a basketball player. I knew I was good at math. And one of the things that we would do as hobbies as friends is, freestyle and different things of that nature, which made sense then. It may not make sense looking at me now, but I wasn't always a Hasidic Jew, basically. I was just a Jew in the world. And, over time, it just became evident that there's certain talents that I have in it, like people sharing my either writings or recordings of me when I was a teen. And over time, it just manifested in more things.
Interestingly enough, I read that in your teens, that's when your interest for following the path of God,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's when it all ballooned for you.
It's all pretty connected. Just because, I had certain eye-opening events in my life, but it wasn't just that. It was just from those things causing me to question the way I live my life, the things I believe, the way other people choose to live life, and what I thought about those things. And ultimately that led to me thinking more in terms of, I do believe in God. And if I believe in God, or if I want to find out if I believe in God, what does that mean for me in my life? And what's my purpose in life? Things of that nature. Things that 17-year-old kids don't always think about. And I definitely didn't. I was more of a partier and an athlete and involved in the social aspect of life. And, it was just organically from life itself, experiences manifested that way.
Yeah. So, and educate me a little bit. Is Orthodox and Hasidic interchangeable?
So you could be Orthodox and not Hasidic, but if you're Hasidic, you are all of Hasidic life is an Orthodox life.
Okay.
So a Hasidic Jew is by definition Orthodox, but an Orthodox Jew is not by definition Hasidic.
Thank you. I learned something new. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And this is all Eastern European based, right?
Yeah. Eastern. Yeah. So a lot of the Hasidic movements of today have branched out through Eastern Europe. Rebbes would be considered the rabbi or lead rabbi of a Hasidic group. And a lot of them branch from Eastern Europe, and some of them migrated to America and some of them didn't, or different parts of the world.
So tell us a little bit about how you're developing your music, how you're creating. We listened. We actually, on our way here, getting dressed, we were listening to
the music.
Yeah.
But what's crazy was I had heard this song many times before.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, this is not new to me. So it was kind of cool. I got very excited.
That's awesome. Yeah, I guess what's interesting about sound is you could hear a song multiple times and then you connect the face to it. It's like, oh, wow, he made that. That
Yes.
song is that person. Yeah, so, and that's also the beauty of today's modern day streaming. It's not, people in different segments of the world could be hearing songs more frequently than other people in other segments, and a song could be familiar in New York or South Africa or whatever that, maybe someone in another city or whatever didn't necessarily hear. It's interesting how we come across songs. And
yeah.
You say that music is an expression of your soul. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, true music is ultimately an expression of the soul. I think when we're in tune, everyone has a creative aspect of them, and everyone has an ability to create music in certain capacity. Um, it's whether some people harness that ability more than others over time in their life. But if they're doing it from a place of emes, of truth, then ultimately it's coming from the soul. Um, at the same time, you could do it very mechanically, and it could not come from the soul. That's also an aspect of it. Um, but what I try to do is create music that's coming from my soul more than the other type of music. Yeah.
And at this point in your life, what do you think like you find inspiration through?
So I think inspiration's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's actually
But how do you decide, because it's like, it is everywhere, right? But then how do you decide like the content?
It's
Or what's the last thing that
it's
inspired you?
when you're being in tune with yourself, you could be more in tune with the inspiration around you, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that works for me. If I feel more in tune with my soul throughout my day, then it's more likely that things in my life I'm gonna be able to tap into the inspiration that's available.
Yeah.
There's a famous Hasidic saying that every single thing that a person sees or hears is a direct dialogue from God, and how they could
I
better,
love that.
some lesson, some form of truth that they could tap into to better live their life, or better serve God, or live their purpose in life.
When did you realize that God was walking with you?
I mean, so it's interesting. Even though I didn't grow up religious, I think my mom was probably the first person that told me about, like, there's such thing as God, and I always kind of felt that relationship to some degree growing up, even when I was little. But you don't really. It's not, as you develop in life, it's not necessarily like something that you naturally will think about throughout your day. It's just like if something happens, we think about God. That's whether good or bad,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
different things trigger that thought about God for different people. It just, when I started becoming more observant of my religion, of Judaism, I started realizing that I could live every moment with God in some capacity. If I put enough effort into being that in tune with my life.
Your music brings a lot of different people together. That's what I noticed when we were looking at the different countries that it's being played in and embraced in, right?
Yeah.
It was like vast. There's Europe, Africa,
Thank God,
right?
yeah.
It's all in there, and it's just bringing people together, and it's also like speaking to people's soul. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I think because we all have a soul. If you make music from the soul, it'll connect to other people's souls, and that could be
Absolutely.
anyone, 8 billion people.
That's right.
And I think that's one of the reasons that I think it's the right way to do it is, when we make music, obviously there's an aspect of creating things for ourselves, and it will be better for ourselves to be doing it from the soul, and more for ourselves to be doing a creative effort for the soul. But also you could be connecting with other people's souls and helping them connect to something or someone in a positive way.
In a
Yeah.
meaningful way. Yeah.
And how do you know when you're in tune with your soul? Or is it a
a good
practice?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I think it's kind of like, it's called hergish. It's like something you could feel, you could kind of sense when you're living like that. But it's more likely that you're going to feel that way if you do certain things throughout your day to do that. So a big thing that's gone around in the world recently is, instead of starting your day with your phone, is meditation, or people call it mindfulness or whatever.
Mindfulness.
Like, if you create different pockets of your day, especially the start, the end, and positively, in a way that's more conducive for you to live with your soul throughout the day, it's more likely that you'll be able to do it. But anyone can do it, even
Yeah.
if you don't do that, we could tap into
to different
ourselves.
ways.
Yeah.
So I have a follow-up question on that. What are some things in life or in the world that sometimes you look at as threats to keeping you from to keeping you close to your soul?
This is a good question. So like especially Hasidic thought, Jewish thought in general, we have a completely different perspective on this topic as Eastern religion does. So not fully different. There is an aspect of separating yourself from the world. That's an important aspect in Judaism too, or Hasidic thought, to live separate. But, even monks will tell you they're not working jobs while they're doing that. They're completely in a pocket,
Yeah.
and they can't be involved, and that helps them too.
Yeah.
And Hasidic thought is very practical that people, are suggested and meant to be involved in the world. And there is an aspect of maybe your morning meditation, maybe at night you think about certain things that you wouldn't throughout your day because you're involved in your daily work. But it's very encouraging of when you're involved in the world to do it in a way that's higher, to be involved in a way that's not saying that it's wrong to be involved. It's good to be involved, but doing it in a way that's more holy or good.
Just that
And
removal.
just, yeah, yeah. Just that there's times of removal
Yeah.
and there's times of involvement.
Yeah.
And if you're able to take yourself out at times, you'll probably be able to put yourself in a proper way, more connected with your purpose in life, more connected with, doing good things, being a good person.
Yeah.
If you never take yourself out, you'll never really be able to do that because you've always been rushed throughout the day, throughout
Yeah.
everything. And the physical world around you is a distraction. But the goal is to make the physical world not a distraction, but a part of that experience. And definitely there's an aspect, like other faiths believe that we need to disconnect, but it's for the sake of connecting on a higher level, not staying disconnected.
No, it really is. And I can completely relate to that. Like even in Muslims with Ramadan, a lot of times it's removing yourself from a lot of the things that are very worldly, like and when you're fasting, it's a constant reminder of why you're doing this, the hunger. Like my dad, whenever we tell him, Daddy, we're hungry, and he's like, and this is the feeling to remember that you are sacrificing something for Allah, right? And then there's also, he always used to teach us that you're also fasting from fighting, you're also fasting from anger, you're also fasting from all these things that would be like, oh my God. So my brothers and I would want to fight, but we just wouldn't fight. Remember that, guys? But it would just be like, we can't. And my brother says, after iftar, I'll kill you. After we eat, after we break the fast, But then it's like, you've broken your fast, you threatened me. But, there is an element of removal that even in Islam, Ramadan brings. So I could relate to that, where that removal does bring you back better to be able to contribute better to the world. And it's actually very healing and meditative.
Yeah, it's a truth in the world. That's why today there's different things that have come out, like a suggested 1 day removal from electronics, like as like a not a Jewish belief, not any religious belief, just the world saying this would be best for us. Like if there's a truth in reality, it's going to come out through other funnels. Everyone's going to be able to realize at some point, well, maybe this being overly connected and being super connected to our phones, electronics, everything, maybe there is a problem or a place to put it aside. Any truth in the world the world will be able to pick it up, and other faiths will say it, and other, because it's ultimately it's true.
It's interesting because I tend to practice this regularly, after
Disconnecting.
just always disconnecting. And even like with like tensions or like different things that are happening around me, I tend to like go into a certain state where I'm not engaging the way that maybe I really want to. Just learning to pull back. And it's that concept of like what you give attention to grows. So it's like understanding that you want to give attention to all the things that are like positive and meaningful, and take attention away from all the things that could lead to your demise in some way.
Yeah, that's what I think, that disconnect is really important to. It's called Rutz and Shuv in Torah terminology, but you have to have it. You have to be able to connect to something higher, that's not part of your day,
Yeah.
daily hustle and bustle.
Correct.
And it's more likely that you'll be able to connect on a higher plane when you are involved in those things.
For sure. So how does music fit into your pursuit of happiness, if you have one?
Yeah. So pursuit of happiness.
Or
So
what is your pursuit of happiness? Is there one?
so I think pursuit of happiness is, you know, it's more of a internal thing. When we face life and say, when I get this thing, when I become this, when I'm more like this, when I'm less like that, when I don't have this habit, or when I have this habit, then I'll be happy. But how could a person acting like that and thinking like that stay happy?
Ever be happy?
Yeah, you're not going to be happy. It says when a person has 100, then he wants 200.
Mm-hmm.
When you reach that plateau, when you become this, then you're going to want
The next
this.
thing.
And then you were depressed till here, if you got here from being depressed, which is really hard if you're depressed to get here. And then when you get here, then you're going to say, this is my new barometer. And here in between, you're going to be depressed.
Exactly.
It's just an endless cycle. And also, an aspect of that is like when if I define myself, or someone defines themselves as, I'm the best this, I'm the smartest this, I'm the best looking this, then when someone walks in the room that has a little bit more of this,
Can you handle it?
Or threatens it in some way,
they're
right?
depressed.
Yeah.
They're depressed. They're down. They have to.
Yes.
I have to compete with some person I may not have even known 3 seconds ago, but they walked in the room. Now I have to be better than that person for myself or someone else, and
That's an excellent
it's an
point.
endless cycle.
That's an excellent point, right? And it's learning how to be happy with what's already there. And then if you want to build on that, that's fine. But just learning how to be happy with what you have. My family, when I was growing up, it was always like, learn to be content. Learn what that means to be filled, And
Yeah.
if you feel like you're full, then whatever else comes, it's like, okay, that's an additional bonus, but
Yeah.
it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
a big problem when I am the most accomplished in a room, or the best artist, or the best at everything. I have a very big problem because now everybody is gaining. And what am I gaining? If I'm going to be the best at everything in the room, everybody's coming and they're going to be getting something out of me.
Yeah.
What am I getting? So I love being in rooms where there's someone better than me in accounting, there's someone better than me in IT, there's someone better than me in music, there's someone who's a better artist than me, because we learn from each other, we exchange ideas. So I've never felt like I've never actually felt like I'm the best at everything in a room. But the day I feel that, that's going to be a very sad day, because then you have to start all over and figure out, okay, how do I get myself in rooms where we're all growing and we're all learning?
Yeah. So the way that that's talked about in Hasid, it's like, so we think, or the world says, the way to be happy is when I reach this, when I become this.
Attainment.
Yeah. Which is very puffed up. It's like,
Yeah.
it's all me. It's, I have this. I
Yeah.
am, like you're saying, like, now all I am, I can only give. I can't even
I can't
achieve
even get anything.
I can't achieve anything. I
Yeah.
can't get anything. So, the way that it's taught is that humility is the best pathway
That's right.
Yeah.
to getting it. Because if it's about attaining those things, that's coming from a place of puffing myself up. And if my humility is that I am like, I'm myself, I'm Moshe Reuven, that's my soul, that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to achieve something. This is where I stay at. It doesn't leave. I'm always me.
That's right.
It's not something I did to deserve it. I didn't attain it by anything. So I can't feel like arrogant about it. And, there's nothing that, I could necessarily say that I'm the sole purpose because of why that exists. It has to be something that's beyond just me,
Yeah. So you'd rather just be.
I mean, it's not even about rather just being, it's just saying, where's my starting point? Where's my definition of myself?
Yeah.
If my definition of myself is these qualities or these goals or these positions or these whatever, um, then that's where you go back to that thing where you're constantly relapsing in happiness and coming back.
Yeah.
But if it's that my number one defining quality is my soul, the
That's
person
right.
who I am,
Yeah.
the part of God, the part of something greater than myself that I am, then nothing, it doesn't stagger because there's no changing. There's nothing that's causing it to change. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of whether I'm in tune with it.
So, what's a common misconception about you that you'd like to always just clarify? Like, do I need to tattoo this on my forehead?
Common misconception.
Or
I
one
don't
or
even know. That's a
many?
good question.
Is there anything where you say this is such a misconception?
Some my common misconceptions about me. I think just in general, there was some shows, some movies that came out that kind of gave. I'm a Hasidic Jew. When someone sees me, they might say rabbi, they might say Hasid, they might say a Jew, whatever. I'm a religious Jew ultimately from an outsider's
I
perspective.
think that's incredible, though.
So like, yeah, thank you. So like,
I love that you wear it.
yeah,
You
I mean,
own it.
yeah, I mean that's
so beautiful.
if you believe that this is your mission in life to be a Jew, then you like what I wear as a Jew. It's just like an expression of something I am. It's not like I'm trying to put on an expression. It's just a Jew dresses a certain way, like
Yes.
and it's not like an uncomfortable thing for me. Like maybe at this point, maybe when I was younger, and I was going from having a blowout and t-shirt and like diamond earrings that were fake, and
That were fake.
maybe to wear a yarmulke was a big deal. And I was just like, whoa, people are gonna look at me differently because I'm wearing a yarmulke
Yeah.
now. But as far as whether I feel uncomfortable with it now, it's no, not at all. There are elements of like, I wear a hat also. Should I wear a hat on this occasion? Like, I don't have to wear a hat during this occasion. Like during this conversation, do I need to wear my hat? No. But should I? It's a good question. Maybe it would be better.
Yeah.
I don't know. So sometimes there's questions like that. But as far as comfortability of who I am, that's pretty status quo.
How have you been received by your community?
So that's interesting.
Right.
So it's all over the place.
That's a good question.
Different responses, right?
You
I'm
get,
sure.
you get haters. I have a lot of haters, even amongst my own tribe, I guess you'd say.
That is so
That means you're
beautiful.
doing something right.
That's what I hear. I mean, that's what everyone keeps telling me. I don't want to say it to them, but
Yeah.
but
No.
maybe
No.
someone else could tell them.
JK.
But no, I'm joking. So like, you get haters when you achieve anything or get anywhere that's like beyond the norm in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely have those, but I have a lot of supporters. I have tons of fans. I have diehard fans, and I have enemies that I don't know. I never met, so it's all over, it's good and bad. It's all good, but it's not everyone receives you, especially when you're new.
Yeah.
Not everyone receives you positively at first. It's like, cause it could be ego. It's like, oh, I think the attention should be on me in that thing, or
Yeah.
I think I should have gotten that, or I think that person shouldn't have this, or I don't know. You never know. With every person is different, so you have different responses all across the board. We tend to focus on the haters when we have haters,
Yeah.
So.
I was so excited because our show is very new. Where we're a month old and we had one hater on YouTube. I was so thrilled.
Yeah, that is.
Someone commented something like so corny. And I was so excited. And I'm like, you really felt the need to comment something mean. And I was like, oh my God, have we made it? Should I start wearing sunglasses outside?
It's easier when it's corny though.
But I was so thrilled and I was like, this is the beginning. So anyways.
No, that's great.
Thank you.
That's the right way to that's the right way to be. That's the right way to be.
I mean, I think all religions really promote love. At least the core is love.
Yeah.
And I see that within your community as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of love. Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And
no doubt about that. I'm not denying that.
Right? And I think that like even when you're doing your music, I think that a lot of people are proud of you because you represent this entire community of folks that there's so many layers to us, right?
Yeah.
And it's important to represent that and have folks who are out there that you can relate to and still be a part of
100%.
worldly things, right?
100%.
Right?
100%. And I think so. Like I said, people by nature focus on their haters. That person said something that really
That hurt me.
yeah
Defined me.
yeah. It wasn't corny. It was actually like, oh, that was a good jab.
Yeah.
But like, at the same time, I have tons and
Of
tons of
love.
people that say,
Yes.
oh, you give me hope that I could be who I am and
Something.
succeed
Yeah.
as who I am, or
Yes.
you representing our people, you like all those things, like you're saying, like massive amounts of people that people see me, which is a responsibility that I have, that there's people that are seeing me.
Yes.
But it's come with tons of love, and definitely Judaism, we have abundance. It's a principle in Judaism to love each other, and I was just painting the picture that there's all different shapes and sizes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Even like your lyrics, when I was reading some of your lyrics, a lot of it is the principles, intertwined in your music. And that is important because, like you said, sometimes music, some people paint it negatively. So now there's always that alternative that now you have something that, parents might not approve of certain music, right? But now, in your community, it's approved and
Beyond your community.
And beyond your community,
I mean,
of course.
you are charting, internationally, and that should say a lot. That you kind of, was there ever fear when you decided
Absolutely.
to just jump in
Oh,
both
man.
feet? Was there other fear?
You
Tell
don't know
us
the story. The fear was
What?
like, so like the fact that, I was doing music. I've been doing music. I've been making songs for probably 15 years now, at least. I think the first song I wrote, I was 8 years old,
Wow.
and it was just, everything started off not serious, but in some way that 8-year-old writer was serious, and it wasn't hip hop, probably. I don't know what it was, but like, it's been a long, long journey. The fact that it's been long is partially due to the fact that I wanted to be successful, and
That's
I'm
right.
afraid. I don't know if you'd say the word afraid, but definitely times afraid, but concerned whether I would be able to do it in a way that are listeners, which thank God there are. And like, I was concerned whether I would be, for one, as I was becoming religious, I seen some of the best artists in the Jewish community get a lot of flack in a negative sense, and it could make you a little bit concerned, like,
Of course.
I do music on a large level, and then I'm gonna have some rabbi possibly saying something not nice about me, like that other artist,
Yeah.
because whatever reason, maybe the artist is so influential, it makes the rabbi feel a little bit uncomfortable, that maybe my student is gonna like him more than me, or whatever. Like, these concerns came about, especially as I was becoming religious, because I was like, there's so much more elements now.
Correct.
Before, when I was just a teenager that could live life recklessly, young, wild little kid, I could do whatever I wanted. I was concerned then what mommy and daddy will think, because, or my brothers were always like picking up, what brothers do. My parents didn't know that I did music, so like, especially doing hip hop, it would be like a strange thing. I'm a nice white Jewish boy, So it was
From Hollywood,
Florida.
Florida.
Hollywood, Florida, Cooper City. I'm not from the hood, so it was definitely like,
You didn't have the credentials.
yeah, I didn't have the credentials. I was not normal. It would not be seen possibly properly by other individuals till they heard what I was speaking about.
Correct.
And even as it became more and more meaningful, I knew that there's a purpose behind my music. There's meaning behind my lyrics. There's things that I'm trying to do with this. And if people will listen, then they'll get to it. But there's definitely a holdback for a long time. And the fact that You're Not Alone came out was actually an accident, because I was probably going to edit it for another year and never release it.
And never let it out.
Yeah.
So you're definitely very careful with your craft. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but maybe to a fault, I need to be more.
Well, that's kind of a creator. Any creator is that way. I mean, you should see with even this show, Wahida's like, hey, when are we letting? I'm like, still just checking some things.
Yeah,
And,
I'm sure. I'd imagine.
and it's, I think that's very normal. So tell me, what was on the other side of fear?
It
When
was
you finally
unbelievable.
just,
It was unbelievable. I mean, I wouldn't say it was unbelievable right away. It was pretty. I mean, I had been building an audience for years.
yeah.
And so and that was part of the thought process. If I have an audience, then when I do release music, I have people that will listen, hopefully a good percentage of them. And so that took a little bit off, but also a lot of expectation of it being my first song. But the fact that it began charting and it started getting a lot of, over time, millions of, views and streams. And that was like, okay, plan worked out, my goal to like build an audience so that I feel a little bit more open about this, even though I maybe did it a little bit before I would have if I was waiting till I was comfortable. It was a blessing. It was a huge blessing. And I think that's a big thing for listeners that are inhibitors, we could be going on them. And a lot of talk has been going around these days around the internet about how our fears, where our minds are created to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
We're thinking that if I don't do that thing, I'm going to be safer because nothing changes in my life.
Yeah.
It's that threat response that we get, used to. And it's so interesting with threat response because what happens is if you're walking down the street, right, and you see a bunch of people that maybe look a little dangerous, you probably will hold on to your wallet a little tighter. That's your threat response, right? You might cross the street, you might walk the other way, right? And then there's also the mental threat response where you're afraid that things may not go a certain way. And then you say, maybe I'll just hold on to my talent and my skill a little bit more. I mean, and then there's also emotional threat responses that we ignore, but that's for another day.
Yeah, like.
But then, there's that mental threat response where you're just kind of tired. And, on that same tone, I want you to look at the camera and look at whoever you want to influence today and tell them about about how the other side of fear has treated you.
Yeah.
And if you knew then what you know now, what would be different?
There's good fears and there's bad fears. And when it comes to living your dream or trying your passions out on a larger scale or attempting a certain goal to make it manifest, sometimes it's better to be able to push your fears to the side, even though they're not going to go away probably, and know that it's on the other side of fear, there's at least going to be growth. Every time we go outside our comfort zones, we're going to grow, and you'll be more capable further on, closer to the things that you thought might be able to manifest, even if you don't start charting and millions of people start listening to you right after you go across your fears. It's a step closer to whatever goals you have. And unless you learn to channel the fear towards positive action, you're not gonna be able to get there. So you have to learn to utilize the fear instead of hoping that it just goes away.
And
That's
let the fear fuel everything that you do, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you're scared. That's when you're going in the right direction. This scares you, do it,
Take that with a grain of salt, though. There's things to be afraid of in life.
Well, yeah, there are things to be afraid of. But when you think about the other side of fear, it's not, don't go be reckless and just jump from the building and say, oh, I was afraid, but maybe I'll land on something soft or whatever. But I think a lot of times the other side of fear for me, the way I define it, is about doing something that scares you. Even this podcast, Wahida will tell you, I was never going to be on camera. Never. I told her, that's the one thing I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be on camera.
Yeah, I don't need to be on camera.
I don't need to be on camera. You do your thing, whatever. You figure it out. I'll do the background, do business, whatever. And I remember I was terrified of being on camera. I had anxiety forever. And then the other side of fear showed me a bitch that I love. Like, I really love the girl. Like, when I watch myself on camera, I'm like, I want to be her friend. So, it's kind of like, trying something. And, what has the other side of fear been like for you?
The other side of fear has really been great for me because I'm very fearless. I always challenge myself. I always take a lot of risks. Sometimes those risks have harmed me in some way, but I love that I am not typical, and I love that I step out of the box and I do different things, and I'm never afraid. And one of the quickest things that I can mention here is when I worked on Rikers Island. People don't usually do that as a therapist. They're like, I don't want to work there. You can choose to be a therapist in so many different settings. I chose to do it in that setting. It was the most rewarding experience that I had. It felt great. It felt like I was doing God's work.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, that moment changed my life. So I think that, as long as you're being mindful about how you're challenging yourself, it's very important to challenge yourself.
And very rewarding.
And extremely rewarding. I do have a final question for you, and that is Spotify top 50. How did you celebrate?
Oh, I didn't get there yet.
You're almost there.
I'm almost there.
How will you
I'm
celebrate?
like getting there. So I'm not getting there in America. I'm getting there in Israel.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a huge
it's
deal.
become an initiative to make sure that the Israeli population knows about me because that's 73% Jewish.
Yeah.
And I love Israel. It's our home. It's it's part of the Jewish story.
That's right.
It's part of our lives. Our mission as Jews, like to have a connection with the land, and so it's unbelievable. I mean, I remember when I first time went to Israel and I'd see, I saw some of these artists and like you'd be in a coffee shop and you'd see like Taylor Swift. You go to a coffee shop in Israel and you see, these other artists that are Israeli artists, and finding myself on stage with some of them, collaborating,
Yeah, beautiful.
like work on phone calls with them, meeting them in person. And I'm just like, this is on another level.
Yeah.
Like this is unbelievable because I was just a certain amount of years ago, I was in Israel and it was my first time, and I was looking at the coffee shop table and this guy was on the CD, and I was just like, to be reaching a certain level in Israel is unbelievable, and to be having different figures connecting with me that, some songs changed my life, some of their music has influenced me. It's a dream come true to even just be at that stage. It's a huge blessing.
So it's a constant celebration is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. It's like I'm trying not to make it one of those things that like
when
define
I get
me,
to
like
this,
we were
yeah.
talking
Of
about.
course,
But
of course.
it is definitely part of it's beauty that's a part of the journey, and God willing, it only gets better and better. But yeah.
One of my favorite quotes. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to touch on the fact that you did perform in Brooklyn, and so Brooklyn has a huge, Jewish community, right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. So, it was in Upper East Side of Manhattan, close to
You did
Brooklyn.
Coney Island too, no?
Oh, Coney Island.
Yeah.
That's part of Brooklyn.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
See?
I'm not.
Look at that.
I'm not an expert in New York, to be honest.
I
Sorry.
learned something
I'm a
new,
Floridian.
too.
I'm a Floridian. So, to be honest, I can hardly like find my where I'm going around here. So, you should have saw me trying to navigate the streets on the way here. No, seriously, I had to call my wife and I'm just like, how do I get there? So like, I mean, I thought it was unbelievable. Like it was the show in the sky basically.
That's right.
You see the skylines. You see like,
Yeah.
I think you could even see the Empire State Building, and a packed room. Like we literally packed it in 2 days. It was 2-day
Event.
posting it on my stories, and people coming out all over the world, and it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Someone that I think they came across I don't know which way across the country, south to north or west to east. Someone that came in to see my show in Coney Island, and then also came and saw the Upper East Side one. Coney Island, a big part of that was Michael Jackson was on that stage performing.
Wow.
Foo Fighters, a ton of people like that were like legends in music in different areas. Sublime, I think, and I think Alicia Keys. I don't know. You could go on.
Yeah, there's
It
a
must
lot
be
of
so
people.
Yeah,
surreal.
Coney
Yeah.
Island Amphitheater is huge. 5,000 people.
Wow.
And to be honest, it was my first big show. It was, that was probably, yeah, that was probably my first like show at that size. And I was just like, there was a certain aspect of me I was nervous.
Yeah.
The mic kept screeching if I went this way, and some other logistic thing was going on in the background, and like there just happens to be a bunch of people. But it was one of those things of you go past that, maybe some form of discomfort, and you reach a new level. And then my next show that was, in the thousands was, I was comfortable. I was out, it was fluent. It was less, there wasn't a screeching microphone that, it's stages, and I'm just very thankful. It's a huge blessing, these types of things. And also thankful to be able to perform with some of my favorite artists.
It's really amazing. And in speaking with you today, one of the things that I'm going to take away, and it's something that I keep in practice, is that heaven is in the process. And I really truly believe that you are experiencing heaven in the process rather than the destination, which is so inspirational, which is a big thing, because it goes into back to our conversation about the pursuit of happiness, because that pursuit is for a destination. And if you can always remember that it is in the process, you can actually end up in states of joy for longer periods and really experience life as it's meant to be.
For sure. I think if you can appreciate and tap into that process, you're more likely to get there. It's harder to wait for that goal, and absolutely, I'm 100% agree.
It's been so amazing having you here today. I mean,
Likewise.
This conversation has been uplifting.
Yep,
I've learned quite a bit. I think even just in all of our understanding about the pursuit of happiness, and hopefully we can influence or not even influence conversations about it, not influence anyone to think differently about what the pursuit of happiness is, but influence conversations, because some things we have our minds set up, and there's all these memes that we have in our Pinterest or whatever that say, I'm only going for good vibes, I'm only going for this, I'm only going for that. Just remember, heaven is in the process, and if you can enjoy the little bits of heaven, you can for real enjoy life. And with that said, you have been unofficially therapized.
Thank you. I feel it.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Of course.